Welcome to the latest episode of CyberBytes, the podcast. I'm Oliver Legg, the co-founder of Aspiron Search, and today I welcome Robin Berthier, the co-founder and CEO of OT security firm Network Perception. Having founded the company out of his PhD research project, Robin shares his unique journey from academia to now running a VC-backed, commercially orientated cybersecurity business. Well, absolutely buzzing to have you on the show, Robin, from Network Perception. How's things?
Things are well. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be discussing with you today.
Yeah, pleasure. You're just back from visiting family back in France, I hear.
That's right. I try to go there like twice a year, usually at Christmas time and summer. So just came back from my a bit of summer vacation, seeing my family and then enjoying the hometown and comfort food and all the good things that you grew up with, that you're missing when you're living on the other side of the Atlantic.
You can't beat mum's food, especially
exactly
French as well.
Exactly.
Awesome. And Chicago is normally home for you and Network Perception, right?
Correct. Yeah, I moved to Chicago in 2017, so I've been there for 6 years, and really scaled and built most of the business here in Chicago, which is a great place to be in terms of the centralization and access to all major cities and a pretty short flight. So liking it a lot.
Yeah, awesome. Well, given all the work that we did together in 2022, I've been looking forward to this episode. So really keen to, you've got a very unique and interesting story in how you personally got to where you are now, leading a 50-odd person Series A security business. So really keen to go right back to where it all began, and what's the story of how you got to this point from the very beginning?
So well, I was always developing a passion for computers and specifically how to break things and prevent them from being broken by other people. So really cybersecurity was a natural field for me to explore when I was doing grad school. So went to University of Maryland to do a PhD on the topic of honeypots. We were deploying hundreds, if not thousands, of virtual, honeypot computers ready to be hacked. And for every new activity we were collecting, following along step by step to understand attack techniques and then publish papers to inform the industry on how to best defend themselves. And really, back then in 2008, 2010, it was a big move to transition from a qualitative view of cybersecurity to a quantitative one. So really using quantification and data to inform decision making. And I love that aspect. There was like a huge green field to explore. And so I kind of tried to learn everything I could, and then moved to the Midwest to do my postdoc at the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. I joined the Information Trust Institute at UIUC, world-leading center on the aspect of cybersecurity for critical infrastructure. So there I shifted my attention from traditional IT security to more like industrial control systems and OT. And that's where, I was in charge of a couple of projects to really build a next generation of solutions specifically for the electric industry. And that's, the technology that came from the University of Illinois really was the root of Network Perception and the product we have today. The thing that was really different from the traditional research project I was used to was the opportunity to partner with the industry from day one. Like usually, you have a research project with a grant, and then you work on it for a few years, you publish a few papers, and then you try to find partners to get you some feedback. Over there, it was the opposite. Like we had to have partners aligned in order to move forward with the research that was funded by DOE and DHS. And so we work closely with the regulators in the electric space, NERC. We work closely with small, medium, and large power utilities in the Midwest and beyond, companies like Emeren and ComEd and First Energy. And the feedback we got from the early days of the prototype we were developing to better visualize and verify OT networks was really outstanding. So we decided to, rather than move to the next research project, publish other more papers, we decided to branch out of the lab and work with the Office of Technology Management at the university to incorporate a structure that could best help us to maintain and develop that technology in the long term.
Yeah, awesome. And so when you started out on that research project, did you have any remote idea that it would stem into a VC-backed business, or did it just happen without any prior planning when you set out on the paper?
Yeah, we really we went as we decided those key steps as we went. Like there was no initial plan to grow to the size we are today. But I remember when you apply for a grant from NSF or another agency, they ask you for a document called the societal impact. And so I remember with the team I was working with, really working on the 2-pager to see what would be the societal impact of that research and the technology we were developing. And it was interesting because it really drove a lot of the decisions I made much later, driven by the mission to really have that positive impact, to really move the needle in the right direction in order to better protect this critical infrastructure. So then later, when the decision was came to us to raise some funding to grow and put some more infrastructure in place, that was kind of a natural step, aligned with that initial mission we set for ourselves when we launched the project.
Yeah, and was that the moment where you thought, we've got something here, we've got something that can have a real impact, more than just a research project?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the beyond the feedback that you get in like research calls, to then transition to a commercial relationship with your partners, and setting the first license to the software is really a core validation for us. And then you have it's like you're driving the research for the first 3 years, and then it takes off, and then it drives you. Like it really it's a force that keeps going forward, and then you have to make sure that you keep it in the right direction. But the momentum is developing over the years. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and keen to come back to what you said about like the first proposals and the first commercials, because that'll be really interesting to touch on. But before we do that, so what happened next then? So you've got some, I assume, a relatively small amount of money in the grant, in the grand scheme. Right. Kind of how much did you get? How did you deploy it? What happened next?
Yeah, so we got a SBIR from NSF for short of $1 million, so like around 900K, and then that supported us for a couple of years, a few developers and myself, to refactor the prototype that was, aggregation of code from different students and researchers at the university. So we factored that into building our first product. And then back then we were incubated at the research park at the University of Illinois, which is, a fantastic location to have access to key resources around, financial help, legal help, even the design of the logo and mentors. You're meeting entrepreneur in residence who are helping you to think through the challenges and step by step build your business. So we stayed there for a few years. We graduated from the incubator and then moved to Chicago from Champaign, and then 2017, and then that's really where we transitioned from a technology centric company to a more mature business where you have you're investing in client success, and you're investing in in marketing and different aspects to really have something that can impact the marketplace. So, bootstrap for a few years, then the momentum growing. We raised our first round of funding, a seed round in 2020, 2.7 million, and then that was really successful. So we grew really fast the following year, and then raised our Series A last year for 13 million. And it's for me, it's extremely exciting to see the company just changing drastically from one year to the next, and then the impact we're having is just growing. But yeah, I mean, the first back to the roots of the project, I think what was really interesting to me personally in spending time on this and really dedicating my energy to that project was the passion I have for cybersecurity, but also for the way we visualize information and the way we develop highly usable solutions. I think there's just a huge gap in the industry today regarding very technical software that are put in the hand of practitioners on the IT and the OT side. But the level of expertise you need to have, and then the complexity of those user interfaces makes it quite challenging when you have a busy workday to start a process and operationalize those solutions. So I think a key to our success and really what has been driving my the way I'm thinking about it has been the how to combine the best of usability so that we develop a solution that doesn't add a burden to the practitioner, to the users. Like they have, especially in OT, right? They have such a strong requirements to keep the machine running. They have priorities around safety and 24/7 operation. If you add something that will prevent them from achieving this, that won't work. And I think that's why we're so lagging behind the rest of the world in terms of protecting the rest of the IT space in protecting our most critical assets. So
one of the reasons we've always been so passionate about recruiting into the OT space is just how it's not just a case of people might lose some money. It's a case of if someone messes up or if someone gets into this system, people can die. Tens of thousands of people can die. So it's a much more mission-driven industry, which is huge.
And in the world of UX, you tend to optimize for your normal users, and there's a term called extreme users. So you have the bulk of your users who are following a specific path to get to a task inside your application. But then you have extreme users who have like constraints and need to take into account some specific usability aspect. And so in the world of OT, we tend to have much more of those extreme users because, again, to your point, they have such a pressure to remain compliant. Like you go to a power station, you cannot walk 10 feet without having some compliance rule to pay attention to. And then the pressure of cyber attacks. And so that's really what's exciting to me, how to bring complex data in an extremely intuitive way, like simple. And simple doesn't mean too simple. It means really getting to the essence of something so that we can give users what they need to make good decisions and fast. And so that's been our driver.
Yeah, awesome. And so rewinding so you got the $900,000 grant. You then got your 2.7 mil seed round. What size were you when the seed money landed?
I think we were about a dozen, between 12 and 15 people.
And who? So beyond you and your co-founder, who did you have from a commercial perspective at that stage?
Yeah, so back in the incubator at the University of Illinois, I met Ted Green, who was tremendous experience, building startups and technology companies, and so him and I really, were really aligned in terms of building network perception. So he brought the expertise on the business side that I just had zero expertise there. So it was really a good combination for him and I to work together. So he's our CEO and he's been driving the commercial side of the company.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I mean we're at a completely different scale to you guys, but like we were when me and Joe launched Aspiron, we were great recruiters, but had no idea about the business side. So that was the biggest learning curve for us. So I guess the difference is we'd been exposed to a commercial business. We were selling, we were generating revenue, whereas you'd come from academia. That's like two completely different worlds. So how did you adjust from academia, doing research, to then having millions of dollars in the bank, building commercial teams, and then growing to, am I right in saying about 40 people when your Series A landed?
Correct. Yep. So
how did that go? Because I can imagine there were some pretty crazy challenges to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, I have a fantastic team of co-founders, so I never felt, often you say, okay, the CEO feels really lonely, like in terms of making those decisions and having to navigate through those challenges. That's never something I felt, because I really have a great sense of support and with the team of co-founders from the university, and then the people we joined the adventure. So, but personally, yeah, I was on track. Back at U of I was on track to stay in academia. Like I was actually applying for positions at other universities to try to become a professor one day, and then this project came along, and so it was a moment in my life where I had the freedom and the desire for this mission impact driven, and so it's like everything else. Like you just immerse yourself and learn as much as you can. You're making mistakes along the way. If I look back, some ways we developed the business took way longer than I expected. It's funny. Like I go back to the commercial plan that we wrote in 2016 or 2015, and then you just see like where you think the business will be in 2020, and of course it's nowhere that you have financial projections that are just completely off track, and so you're learning and the key is to remain agile, make mistake fast and then learn from them and then move on.
Can you give any specific examples of moments where you were thinking, God, I'm almost feel out of my depth here, and kind of how you overcame that?
Yes, I think for the longest time we didn't have any strong client success function. And that means that you don't establish a continuous dialogue with your customers. You're kind of I was approaching it more from a self-service angle, where I say, okay, let's put the software on our internal portal. Let's sell licenses so that users can get their license key, go to our portal, and then download the software, get started and use it without talking to anyone. And I think that slowed us down, because there's just a ton of learning in terms of use cases. And when you build a company, which is something that's for us was a challenge coming from academia, you have at some point to transition from a technology centric venture to a user centric or business centric organization. And that means to translate your technical use cases into business use cases. No one is buying a software just to buy a software. Like they buy a software to for a specific outcome. So they want to accomplish they have an objective to accomplish. And so if you don't solve that objective, regardless, how impressive your application is, it won't provide the value that they're looking for. And then you're going to sell a few licenses, you have early adopters, but then it won't, they won't renew, or you would just want you make a mark in the market.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so you're now a year and a half on from your Series A.
Yep.
So what are the challenges you're now facing as a business that is 18 months on from Series A? The market is not what it was last year,
Right,
or the year before that. Kind of how are you tackling those challenges?
yeah. So if I look back and kind of segment our journey into key phases, we had the very early phase of building a product from the prototype. That was at the at the incubator, and then we had the second phase of establishing product market fit, showing that you can sell, commercialize the technology. And that's really what was the Series C for. And then once we accomplish that, then the next phase is the selling at scale, like how to scale a go-to-market strategy, and also scale your product, because it's one thing to be to have a solution that works for a few hundred users, but it's a different ballgame to build something that needs to work 24/7 with production requirement, like industry grade quality for thousands of users or tens of thousands of users. So with the A round, our goal is to achieve that scalability both on the technology side as well as the go-to-market side. So I would say we are still in the first half of that phase. So I expect another, I would say 12 to 18 months before we reach that the next phase of that journey. And for sure, like the external economic forces have completely changed in the last 12 months, like since June 2022. So we had to adapt, and then that means to learn how organizations are now managing acquisition of software and renewal cycles and sales cycles that are getting longer with more scrutiny, budgets that are allocated differently. So there's a lot of things we have to learn, and that's where back to my point earlier on the importance of client success. That's something we were able to do last year with the A round, was to really invest in a best-in-class client success team, and so we're seeing the fruit of that now. Like, it's just the quality of the conversation we're having with our users and our partners is just much greater than a couple of years ago.
And from early on, you were able to build a very large customer base. From what my understanding was working with you last year.
Right.
I guess it's kind of going back to basics and thinking, well, let's really maximize the people that are already working with us and already using our technology.
Yeah, we were super fortunate to, again, at the university, being able to work, day to day from the very early, steps of the research with the regulators and the industry partners, because then you build a product that's really addressing a very specific use case. So you're saving a lot of time there. And so when in 2017 we started to commercialize our solution, NERC adopted our solution, our product in PVU for conducting NERC SIP audits. And so we became very quickly the de facto solution to help the industry better visualize networks and verify compliance with the firewall requirement that you see in the SIP standard. So SIP 5, and then for medium and high impact, and then SIP 3 for low impact. And that really put us center stage with the industry in terms of how lightweight we were. Like, adopt and to start using. Back to my point of the importance of usability for OT users, having something that's turnkey and that can be deployed in a matter of hours. So I think that was a extremely important point. But yeah, to your point, we had the good fortune of having one of those good problems to have, of having like kind of a large user base really quickly, and having to catch up on the business side of things to maintain that user base and make sure everyone was satisfied with our technical support, with all the infrastructure you can expect.
And for people that are listening and watching but are not OT, are not familiar with the OT space, what high level, what is NERC and how do they use your product?
Good question. So NERC is, that stands for the North American Electrical Reliability Corporation, and CIP stands for Critical Infrastructure Protection, and it's the earliest critical infrastructure dedicated standard for cybersecurity. So it was launched in 2008. It has multiple standards that covers pretty much all areas of cybersecurity programs. So in terms of monitoring, firewall configuration, network segmentation, patch management, change management, training of your workforce, asset inventory. So all those aspects are covered by NERC, and each standard goes to different versions that NERC is publishing with the approval with the request and approval from FERC on the federal side. So NERC is a private entity, but FERC on the government side is mandating NERC to enforce those standards. And it's a pretty unique standard because it has a pretty severe punitive framework. Like if you don't comply, as a electric provider connected to the bulk electric system, which is everything above 100,000 volts, if you don't comply with those requirements, you can be fined up to $1 million per day. So there's a huge incentive for organizations to dedicate resources in order to make sure they're compliant.
So it's interesting the challenges of coming from academia and learning the commercial side, but there's this huge advantage that you've been able to, really create a rocket ship that's been able to have a customer of the mandatory auditor of your industry. So
right.
It's an impressive record there. And I mean, OT, again, we touched on earlier about it having such a unique mission that other domains of security just don't have to the same degree. You've always talked about the kind of better together side of things. So would love to hear a bit more about that as well.
Sure. I mean, that's an aspect I really love about this industry is the putting competition to the side, like really having a different mindset around solving a problem together. Like we all have the same mission, which is to protect our critical assets. So your government, your solution provider, you're an asset owner or operator, you're a consumer. We all have that shared goal of keeping the lights on, and that means for vendors to again to put competitive forces aside and go into partnerships and vendor neutral solutions, which is something I really enjoy doing. It's pretty unique. Actually, when you think about the electric industry itself, and you have more than 2,000 independent entities, providing electricity in the US. You can go to the NERC website. There's a full list of registered entities, and usually they don't compete because they have a territory, right? And they have a specific set of of users connected to the grid, and so they are helping each other. When you see a storm happening in Florida, you see ComEd in Illinois just sending trucks to help Florida Power and Light to make sure that facilities are back on, because it's one giant machine. Like all that electric grid is interconnected, and so that creates an environment where the better together story is extremely important. And so for us, it means to really have excellent relationship with an ecosystem of other vendors and build APIs and build integration that makes sense, and be leveraged as a value multiplier for our OT users. How do always have like a 1 + 1 = 3 mindset when you purchase different or you invest in different technologies, how to connect them so that you can save more time. Your workforce, your bandwidth is limited, so how to leverage automation and technology in a non-competitive way, like in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, and again, it's one of the reasons we've always enjoyed the OT space, is that underlying driver for what everyone's trying to achieve and trying to protect against. Right. Yeah, no, fantastic. And I mean, look, network perception now then, so you're killing it in the OT space, killing it in the NERC SIP and electric utility space. So what should people be looking out for, and what should people be excited for about looking out for you guys?
Yeah, we have some pretty exciting things coming up to the roadmap for the product. So the technology itself is applicable beyond that industry. I mean, this year we're hyper focused on the serving the NERC industry and serving our current customers in the power electric space. But beyond this year, I think being able to expand to other critical sectors. And we see a big push from the government between the executive order and now, the initiative that just came out, last week with 65 initiatives to, implementation plan for those, for the guidelines are big push to align regulations and to start enforcing a much more consistent set of rules across different industries. So for us at Network Perception, that means to also act as a force of good in terms of providing automation and complex information in a way that can be digested by even non-technical users beyond the electric industry. So in the next couple of years, like, you can expect us to start making waves in other critical sectors.
Well, it's a big market, and it's well needed. So no, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Robin. It's been a pleasure, and looking forward to seeing what's in store over H2 and 2024 for you guys.
Thank you. No, thanks, Oliver. A pleasure to discuss with you.
Thanks.